Hey everybody, welcome to episode 89 of It's Just Bodybuilding. Dusty Hanshaw, myself, Big Ron Partlow. We got a lot of Instagram questions. We're happy to have you back on It's Just Bodybuilding. Here we go, Dusty. I got good news.
What is it?
The channel has 10,000 subscribers, which is a good milestone for the channel. We're pretty happy about that.
Absolutely. I mean, that means those other shows must be doing really, really well since we've already discovered no one watches this one.
If we got 10,000, it means everyone's got 10,000.
Yeah, it's a group thing, and we just kind of fall into it, which is a cool move.
Yeah. We get drug along. It's like when Bitcoin goes up, it drags the other cryptos up with it.
We're the other crypto. It says that, the other crypto.
Completely based on another meme with no real value whatsoever.
It's fine. No, I think it's awesome, man. I love seeing that many people are rocking with the channel, and I've slowly ventured into some of the other ones when I'm flying and stuff. It's my new thing. I just download and listen, and I don't really learn a lot, but I enjoy it.
All your secret flying. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and ring the bell. We appreciate that, and then we get to use our little graphic.
I feel like the bell has like a stick or something. That's why I do this.
Well, when you do that, Scott should have a ding.
Yeah, it's the least he could do.
And then if he adds the ding, we'll know that he actually watches this.
Which
if he doesn't add the ding, we'll know that he just skimmed through the episode.
He's not even one of our followers.
Yeah, he doesn't even. He's not even subscribed.
You don't even get a view out of him. He's like, is there a way to subscribe to the channel but not these two? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a good week. How you been doing?
Awesome. I'm what's it, 4, 5? Today is day 7 on my new program.
Oh, I'm celebrating the fact that I still live in the only part of Canada that hasn't completely gone insanely tyrannical.
I can't believe. Listen,
I mean, it's bad. It's bad here. The government has this perverse idea of what they should have the ability to do that just blows my mind. But the rest of the country, I don't even know what to say.
Are you stunned? And I had this conversation just the other day that people forget strength in numbers.
Oh yeah. Well,
like if the majority, if the people who think this is dumb all said "fuck you," all of them had the balls to take a stand. That's what I think people forget. Like even government, even the U.S. government, any government. Okay, let's say that's, I don't know. Let's get ballsy. 2,000 people run the top of the government. Okay, well, there's millions of us.
Yeah.
They do what the fuck we tell them if we take control.
Yeah, it's there's all this video on Instagram. If you go on Instagram and you look at like some of my friends who live in Montreal, where they've had curfews and just insane shit going on for a while now. The videos they're pumping out of like there's like 500,000 people in the street. There's like they're pissed off. None of that video gets seen anywhere on the news. Yeah,
that's further control. That's why the news is bullshit in every country.
Canadian media is especially insidious at its cooperation and it's cooperation and how it's become part of the government here right now. It's just such an insane thing to watch. I mean, some of the provinces, they just closed down gyms again in another province. They were open for 2 weeks. They were shut for 4 months, open for a month, shut again for 4 months, open for 2 weeks, shut them again.
With no that it does anything.
There's no data. They're not even enough. They're not even open long enough to collect data.
Right.
You can't even get a number. Like, it's one thing if you say, oh, well, we had, 100 outbreaks in gyms this month. Like, they weren't even open long enough to have any problems.
Right.
It's ridiculous. I don't know what to say. I'm definitely, I'm definitely anti-lockdown. But I don't want people to think that I'm like, I think one of the problems, and I don't want to get into this too much because I don't want to talk about this shit.
Right.
I'm just gonna be real quick on my end, and then you can run with whatever you want to do with it. But one of the main problems is that a lot of the people that are anti-lockdown are also anti-vax, or kind of along those lines. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm completely pro-science and a huge believer in the medical community. And my brother's an infectious disease doctor, so I hear all the inside stuff. He tells me the latest on, like, before the Pfizer vax came out, he's like, oh, Pfizer's got one coming right away. You know, the AstraZeneca will probably be obsolete soon. And then this one's going to come out, and Moderna's got one coming. Like, I heard all that stuff before. And he's pretty excited about the newer ones and this, and they're definitely good. And, he's up to date on it. And I'm booked to get mine this week. I'm not going to post about it.
You're going to put up the sign, the celebration.
No, the reason I'm getting mine is because my dad's 81 years old and I want to go see him. And I really am, I am concerned. I'm around hundreds of people a day. Right. And I just want to make sure that, I get this done and get through this. He's already had his first shot. So, yeah, and we're also seeing that places that have high vaccination rates are opening back up without problems. So that's coming. And I'm not saying everyone has to get it. It's just that threshold, what is it, 30% or 40% of the population, all of a sudden you have kind of hit that threshold where everything's kind of okay. Again, I'm not a scientist. I can't remember the number.
Well, it's all just, it's whatever circus they're trying to put together for people. And I'm not anti, but I'm not fucking doing it.
Yeah.
But I also don't get a flu shot. And I'm also like,
I don't either.
When I look back at things, I think this is the sticky part. People should do whatever they want to do. It's the same thing I feel about masks. And I don't look at somebody who gets the vaccination or wears a mask that thinks anything. Although I will say that I'm slightly talking out of both sides of my mouth, because I do get irritated sometimes when I go into the grocery store and I see people still doing things because that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Versus like where their stance and they're like, and I'm like, that's how things get fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you want to, absolutely, all good. I think it's shit what's going on up there, and it's now been proven, essentially, in my opinion, that the only guarantee of lockdowns is fucking the economy.
Yeah, it's the only thing.
Sick, people are still dying, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So, but whatever. They're doing their thing. My clients are pissed, but we found places to train and houses, and, the resilient ones just seem to find a way. I got a guy that trains his house. He meets up at a buddy's place secretly, like co-op, to train in his house. I'm like, that has to be a secret too? He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's bullshit.
Like, you can't go to your buddy's house?
It's funny because no one seems to want to talk. What was I can't remember the exact number, but I was watching the show and they said Jeff Bezos lost $38 billion in his divorce.
Right.
Made it back in a month during COVID.
Of course.
So anyone who says that there's not a wealth transfer involved with this, and I'm not saying intentional or conspiratory. Yeah. I'm just saying massive opportunistic wealth transfer, because people weren't thinking of the consequences of all this until it was too late. So very interesting. I don't think Bezos is going to take all that money he made by crushing everything during COVID and distribute it to all the people that lost their small businesses.
Yeah, I don't think he's got that plan either.
Oh, you were selling T-shirts and the government closed your little store? That's too bad. I sell T-shirts too.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, you can still buy them from me. Since
you can still buy them from me. Yeah.
The world will be fine. Yeah, no, it's good to be here, and I'm actually finding here everywhere, but like I'm in South Carolina right now. I was in North Carolina over the weekend. North Carolina is Democrat still. And they still have the mask laws or whatever regulations, I should say. But I found I'm not the only one that wasn't wearing them. And no one said shit. Walk in, hi, boom, sit down, do your thing, which is cool. It just tells me that a lot of citizens have had enough, and they like to do what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I guess, people ask all the time, and I know we avoid some of it, but people are like, what's your opinion on all this? I guess my
Okay.
opinion, and sorry.
They don't ask my opinion anymore.
No, I guess because I don't like to talk about this stuff a lot, and I don't like to like I'm not an absolutist, right? And I love statistics. I love looking at real data, like the only problem is there hasn't been a lot of real data supplied by the government for all this bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's so basically my take is I definitely don't ever trust the government. I I do not trust their intentions. I do not trust the people in it. I think it is absolutely loaded with horrific human beings, and a lot of sociopathic people love the power of being involved in government. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. A lot of people in government also are super fearful of losing their position, and they're all about the votes. So if they're getting calls and letters from people, of course, it's the loudest, whiniest, bitching, moaning people that send letters to politicians and make a big deal out of shit, right?
Yeah.
So when they hear from them, they get the grease, and everyone else gets fucked. So that's generally the gist of what I think has happened. And like I said before, I don't believe in conspiracies most of the time. I think that incompetence on a mass scale is much more believable. Fear, panic, and absolute incompetence by the people in these positions is far more likely than conspiracies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely down with that fact. That's not even
right. What are the odds? What are the odds that everyone involved is just real stupid and fucking scared, or that they all are involved in a brilliant plan to, come on.
At some point you have to look at the obvious. No, that's what makes me laugh is I think of, when I was growing up as a kid and you're watching like gangster movies, I would have never guessed that the most gangster person that I would know when I was an adult would be Hillary Clinton. But there ain't no question. She's the most powerful bitch there is. Like,
that's pretty funny.
People know you kill people and they still can't do anything.
Yeah. Because the most powerful gangsters are the ones who can smile and wave at the crowd and walk in front of the press and get adored and loved by.
Yeah. Well, we all know.
Yeah.
But it still just rolls forward. If anybody kind of knew I was up to shady shit, I'd be in jail in 2 seconds.
Yeah. No.
So, but no, are you? Did you happen to see the list I sent you of the Indy Pro this weekend?
Well, first of all, how cool is it to have a show to talk about?
A show that people are going to.
Yeah.
Live.
I know. So we got the Indy
We had like a year of no shows to talk about.
And now I know there's a bunch of people probably missing off this list, but we're just looking at the one off the Instagram, and it's not complete because you said John Jewett isn't on it.
Yeah, and there was actually some back and forth with Jewett and Dave Bowers Productions. So he is entered. Okay. I'm sure they're going to work it out, whatever didn't get through or mail or whatever. So he's in. But yeah, they got the 212 in the open posted that are at least in already. Now today is the official. Whatever will go up by the end of today is the actual sheet.
Oh, okay, the final list.
Yeah, of who's in. So assuming they're going to post that, but sometimes they forget to once it started.
Well, let's talk about on the open here. Let's talk about the names we see. So the names on here, just for you guys, we got Morgan Ast, that giant dude from Europe that Chris helped.
That it should just stop bodybuilding and be an actor and make millions of dollars. Go ahead.
He's fucking humongous, dude. And then we got Blessing. Mm-hmm. Carlos Chapa. Yep. Now, do you follow him on Instagram?
Yeah.
He looks great.
Yeah, he looks really good.
There's a few names I don't know in here, so I apologize for not following everybody. James Culberson, do you know him?
Do not.
I'm gonna have to check him out. Camilo Diaz, Mohammed El Amam.
He's good for sure. I don't even know who he is. He has to be.
He's coming from Oxygen. No, I'm just joking.
To be.
We don't know. We don't know where he's coming from, but he could be coming from there. Seth Ingman, Roy Evans, Stephen Fraser. I know him.
Yep.
Good to see him on stage again. Dorian Haywood.
Heard he's on his best run ever. So
is he still training at Armbrust?
Yeah, he works there. He's a
chiropractor.
Yep.
Yeah. Justin Rodriguez, of course.
Yep.
massive threat to win the show.
For sure.
Sean Smith, super freak. We've talked about him.
Yeah, he looks nuts.
And Dwayne Walker.
Yep.
Now, obviously, Justin Rodriguez's name jumps out there.
Yeah, Justin and Blessing are the on paper, if you know people, who's coming in. Now, Justin is tried and true and been tested. Blessing, we're going to see. This is what's funny, and I know Blessing's a monster of human, but the one thing I've learned about bodybuilding is you have to see people next to each other.
Yeah. Now, one more thing about Blessing. Hasn't he only done like a couple shows?
Yeah, that's why I say I don't really know. I mean, he looks nuts. But you know what's about that? There's a double-edged sword, and I know you know this, is, one of two things. Inexperience being an issue or being an advantage because they just execute and roll through and don't think. Like,
yes.
It's just another show, just another diet, no big deal. And he's so lighthearted that I have a hard time imagining much works him up. I don't see him stressing and not doing well, other than the fact that I do not envy somebody who has that much pressure going into a show before you're battle tested.
So I've seen the odd person where their pro debut is literally their fourth show ever.
Some guy like Phil Heath.
Yeah. And it's almost an advantage because, like, when you spend a long time at a certain level knocking away, trying to break through, and then you break through the next level, it's like a big deal. You're like, okay, I'm going to nationals finally. Yep. Some guys do 6 regionals before they ever get a chance to go to nationals, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a big deal. They're like, oh, I'm going to nationals. And everyone around them is like, oh, you're finally going to nationals. And it just becomes this giant thing.
Yeah.
But when you're just like, boom, 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 it's like you're at your first pro show, and it's like people are just getting used to the idea of you competing.
Yeah, exactly. Even knowing who you are. I mean, look at even like Hunter Labrada. Look at him. Now granted, it's a little different with his name, but he entered his first pro show to win.
Mm-hmm.
Had no intention of doing anything else, and no one really expected him to do anything else. And I think to a point, no one's going to be stunned if Blessing wins. But if I'm a betting man, my money's on Justin because it's tried and true, and I know what he brings every single. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just the thing with Justin is you've got the thing about Blessing is we know he's got tons of muscle and he's going to be in shape by the looks of it. But I haven't seen like a full round of mandatory photos.
Right. No, neither have I.
Whereas Justin, you can just Google him and you're like, oh, he looks good from all angles. He's got a beautiful shape, structure, small waist, blah, blah, all the bones are the right length, yada, yada. Right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Looking
now,
forward to that.
What about the 212?
212 actually is, it's interesting. What surprises me? I mean, I say this about both classes. First is how few of the big names are doing the show.
Yeah, well, so there's New York Pros like the weekend after, isn't it?
Yeah, but for me, and I mean, I understand too that everyone's finances are different, but like if I'm doing the New York Pro, I'm doing this one too.
Right.
For sure. Like I live on the West Coast, so I'm probably not even going home. I'm going to hit this one. I'm going to hang out in Indy where it's cheaper. Then I'm going to go to Florida, New York, and hit the New York Pro. But so looking at this lineup, which I don't know enough of them to really wrap through. The one who I'm looking really, really forward to seeing that might throw people off is Justin Randall. I don't know if you watched him the last season or so or even know who that is, but he's a beast, and he's like 5 feet tall.
Oh, okay.
I mean, literally, he was one of those guys that was like in shows and doing them, not a long time. It's not like he's been around for forever, but he had one of those meteoric jumps last year. And now I wouldn't be stunned if he wins.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I'll look him up.
It's a prime example of a guy you are like, who? And I'm like, oh, he might win the whole thing.
Yeah. He's
nuts. He's like a Jose that's shorter.
Well, this whole year off from COVID thing has, it's funny. There's, all these guys that got their pro cards, maybe, 2019, 2018, and then COVID hit and everyone kind of forgot their name because they didn't get to compete.
Right.
But now this year we're looking at these lists of names and like I don't know how many of these guys haven't been on stage for maybe 2 years almost.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean, like, obviously, Derek Olson's another one I've seen his picks as of 3.5 weeks ago. Nuts. So, he is definitely a possibility to win this thing as well. We just looked at him. So if anybody who hasn't seen him, take a peek. He's a nutty one too. And I think he qualified for the Olympia and made top 10 last year even.
And of course, like you said, John Jewett should be in there.
Yeah, and he's
212. So what do you think about John Jewett in that class with that sort of conditioning? What is he actually going to weigh?
I don't know what he will weigh, but I know that
it's hard to tell from those pictures.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy too is I mean, I've never really known what John's had to weigh. I assume based on his height and the amount of muscle he has that he's at the top. But he is peeled out of his head. I could be wrong, and I also know that John is one of the people who does us the solid of constantly putting up pictures, which I love. My question is, when he fills back out, not that he's flat, but everyone says they are. But I feel like his quad sweep isn't as crazy as it used to be, but his conditioning is 100 times better. So I'm not sure what the overall look will be with everyone next to each other. And his legs were so good. It's not like you're talking about me and my legs coming down. You're talking about a guy who had insane legs, who might be slightly smaller. I don't know. But
who knows? Maybe he's more balanced.
But the conditioning is nasty. Well, yeah. Plus his thing was always the side leg. I mean, his hamstrings are just.
Yeah. Dude, he looks amazing. He looks great.
I would love to see him win and get back just because he did so well at the Olympia in 19, and then 20 just didn't pan out for him. So I'm hoping that he gets himself right back in there again.
How are you looking at the New York Pro? Everyone's talking about people at the gym are like, what do you think, Blessing or Nick? And I'm like, there's a lot of other guys in that show,
Yeah, but here's the funny thing, and I don't blink to say this. I would feel really confident with Justin Rodriguez against both of them.
Right.
Like, if somebody said to me, you have to bet your money on one or three of them for the win, I would say Justin.
Right.
Again, battle tested, he always comes in.
Yeah.
And not to say that they haven't, but he always does, and I know that for sure. So, yeah, I don't. I'll be curious to see. I appreciate what they've done to draw attention, but they're not in my head who's winning that show.
I just jokingly was talking to another guy, and Justin's name came up. Uh-huh. This is when we were talking about the show that Hollingshead won in England.
Right.
And Rodriguez's name came up, and the guy I was talking to goes, "Who's that? I don't know who that is." And I go, "Oh, he reminds me of Victor Martinez." And the guy goes, "Oh, okay, so top 5 in every show he does then."
Exactly. And that is exactly what it is.
So it's like always that threat. Oh, he kind of reminds me of Victor Martinez. Oh, well, then, he's heavy in the mix.
Absolutely.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy we got some shows coming,
I'm excited because now, unlike last year, I actually love looking back at the show too and seeing, who came in, who didn't, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to see some guys that we aren't thinking of who spent the last year hidden,
Yeah.
They kind of
there's some guys that haven't posted since COVID. They've still been training the whole time.
Yeah. So that's the curious thing too, is I think this year we're going to see everyone back, versus last year. So we shall see.
Okay.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for watching another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. And thank you to our great sponsor, TrueNutrition.com, for making this all possible. TrueNutrition.com is owned by Dante Trudell, the creator of DC Training. He wanted to create a supplement company that offered high-quality, third-party tested supplements at a fair price. High-quality protein powders, just about every type you could think of. Huge variety of flavors, plus health and performance supplements. Check them out, TrueNutrition.com. And hey, if you use our code ADVICES, you directly support our podcasting. Thanks, guys. Let's get back to the program.
So I got some good questions.
I have a ton of questions, and I want to find out how many of them are good while we're doing this.
I'm going to find out how many of them are good.
I specifically asked for good ones, so I'm hoping that they listened.
So I had one here, and I don't want to go back to conspiracies, but
Here we go.
It was a conspiracy question, and it had something I wanted to mention just so everyone else can like look it up if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it here? Well, it was. Are there any conspiracy theories that you think are more likely to be true than others? We've kind of had similar question in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but there was one that I wanted to mention that I want everyone to like just be aware of in case they have only heard one news channel's version of it. But I've been carefully following for the whole year since last year. I've been carefully following the claim that COVID is possibly from a lab,
Right.
instead of from the wet market. Now,
Right.
I've been following this topic closely because it was interesting to me, because there's a guy that I really like named Brett Weinstein, who's a evolutionary biologist,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not a crazy person. Like, he's a very sane person.
Right.
He's like a university professor, very sane person, pure scientist. And he's been saying, whoa, people, this isn't a crazy conspiracy. The problem is that Trump kind of backed the possibility of it being from a lab.
And
that made the media push against it as an insane, impossible concept.
right.
That only a racist or et cetera, fill in the gaps, right?
Yeah. Whatever.
So that's,
Trump.
yeah. So the lab leak theory was completely discarded by most of the media and a lot of sane people,
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, oh, well, it's a racist idea. It's just Trump trying to be a dick. But that was just, for those who hate Trump, a broken clock is still right twice a day, right?
Right.
And so just because you hate Trump doesn't mean he was wrong about absolutely every single thing.
Right.
And he was just casually mentioning it. Like, he probably doesn't even fucking know all the details, right?
Yeah.
But now that Trump's gone, there's the conversation around this concept is changing. And now the former head of the CDC has come out and said the lab leak theory is actually very viable because of what we've learned about the virus now.
Right.
And so when you listen to Brett Weinstein talk about how when you look at the virus, a lot of these variants that we're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
that should have already occurred in the virus's evolution.
Right.
But because it's now just exposed to freedom, we're seeing these mutations and variants happening.
Right.
And he said that that's one of the things that you don't see in something that's already been free already.
Right.
So it was pretty interesting. And plus, he's talking about how the virus is constructed. If you look at it, there's like exactly this much bat, exactly this much, all these different animal strains. And that's what they do in labs, is they do this gain of function theory where they make the virus stronger and then they see what happens. And then, they're playing with this stuff. So the lab leak theory is now being given a lot more support by some sane people that aren't screaming, crazy stuff about it. And I listening to Brett and some of the scientists talk and some of the people that I've heard speak on the lab leak theory, it actually sounds a lot more plausible. And a lot of people don't realize there's an institute of virology in Wuhan.
Right.
So there happens to be a lab there that does experiments on coronavirus. Of course, there's one in Shanghai as well, and there's one in other cities. It's not like it's the only one. So there is also the coincidence factor, but it's there. So, and of course, this doesn't mean anything intentional. It's just
I think that's where people get thrown. That's where people get pissed, is they immediately think you mean intentional. That's not what it's said. It's just saying that.
No, man, it's just
whoops.
Yeah, shit happens. And so it's a lot more plausible to me, and I definitely don't think it's a conspiracy theory anymore. I think it's a very valid theory that needs to be given credit, and we don't want to be stupid and discard something as important as that just because the wrong person liked it a year ago.
Right. I think too. The funny thing about when things get discarded or whatever, I laugh. It's like it doesn't. The one thing that's interesting is it doesn't change that it's here. So other than hopefully getting even more advanced precautionary things in place in these labs. Other than that, which I can't imagine it could be much more precautionary than it is, but assuming there was an issue, it also doesn't matter. But that's the only thing that I always bounce back to is like, those things are great, and it's definitely interesting to know where something comes from, and it probably helps the scientist figure out how to knock it down. But
that's why it's important in this case, yeah.
For you and I, it's just here. For them, it matters because they can probably learn more, get ahead of it, yada yada. So very possible.
Okay. So, what about you? Any conspiracy theories that you wish weren't called conspiracy theories?
Not a ton, because I don't really, I don't get into that kind of stuff. I have a pretty determined, I pretty well know what I think about a lot of things, and for it to become a conspiracy, like even all the way down to like UFOs or, you know what I mean, or things like that, to me, without too much thought, I think it's arrogant to assume we're the only living things in the universe. The end. But I don't think about it any further than that. I'm like, I'm sure there are. I don't know if they've been here, but I'm sure there are.
I'm actually I'm not surprised, because I always wondered what would happen when this day would come, right? And I thought that when, evidence of UFOs, for example, real, solid, acknowledged by the government, evidence of UFOs happened, I thought it would change the world. I thought it would happen and everything would stop. Like you watch the movie where, the news update comes across and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, they just confirmed, But it's so bizarre how it actually happened. They release footage of F-18s chasing down round lights that they can't catch that change direction at 90-degree angles and vanish in a second, and hover above the water perfectly still and then take off at 500 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Or 5,000 miles an hour. What the fuck? They release footage of F-18 fighter pilots being unable to keep up and track these.
Right.
And then the Pentagon releases more footage of more things doing crazy shit. And everyone just kind of goes, oh, yeah. Well, anyways, my restaurant's still closed right now.
Well, you know what it is, though, is I laugh because to me that is, and I know this is a worldwide thing, but this is where I pick on Americans and myself included, is like, if it doesn't affect me directly, fuck it.
Right, and I'm blown away.
Unless they're going to come here and buy pizza from my closed restaurant, I don't really care.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, and obviously some people are like, well, just because the Pentagon acknowledged these unidentified flying objects doesn't mean they're from another, they could be technology that we don't understand from another country. Well, let me put it this way. If China has that technology, we're fucked.
I prefer the option of...
I prefer aliens. I don't want another country to have this tech and have everyone else so oblivious.
Yeah, that we don't even know that it could be anything. We're thinking UFOs as China. That's a problem.
They're time traveling and altering the economy.
Yeah. Right. It's like the dude, and he's driving around with a helmet on. He's flying.
Yeah. Just
single human, no biggie. Yeah. No, I'm with you. That I don't want it to be something like let's keep it safe, and it's the aliens.
They're just here watching. They haven't stopped yet because they don't like what they see on the news.
I think what they're seeing right now, I wouldn't stop either. I'm like, roll on here.
Get a water sample and leave for another 1,000 years.
Well, I don't think the pace we're going. I think they probably looking like, listen, we don't need to take over. They're gonna fuck it up themselves. We'll come take it while it's empty.
Yeah. They're just gonna come back when we're all fucked up.
We're all dead. That'll be a good time to jump in.
As soon as we're all lighting campfires again, we'll see all the ships land.
All right, I'm gonna start light. I wanted to go to my throat.
You realize we've done lab leak theory, UFOs, and anti-lockdown rhetoric, and we're only 30 minutes in.
Yeah, it's perfect. All right, I'm gonna get into bodybuilding. I'm gonna get ballsy.
Okay.
Hunter, Sergio, Akeem, and Brett, all at Chicago. Who's winning? We're going to answer the same way, but go ahead.
I assume they're all at their very best.
Yes.
I have to go Akeem.
Me too.
and that's just respect for the mass.
Well, I mean,
he's the biggest one. He's the top 6 champion.
Yeah.
He's yeah, I guess got to go Akeem. There's just so much there, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look fucking amazing, but then you stand next to Akeem and you're like, oh, there's just, yeah.
You know what it reminds me of that people don't that the sport even can't put into understanding is, for example, you remember when Rami first came and it was the biggest thing anyone had ever seen. He was dwarfing everyone. And all I remember was the day he stood next to Kai and looked normal.
There's certain things, right? Because
because everyone, I mean, because Kai looks like a guest poser at a pro show.
Yeah.
So it's a similar thing. Like, and again, I'm not saying Akeem is to that extreme, but the point is visually it changes. Like, these guys are all phenomenal bodybuilders, but Akeem at his best, it's just okay. If conditioning is on, what is missing?
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, you know. So yeah, I would go Akeem. I mean, I'm not afraid to go all the way down in order. It would be, to me, it's Akeem, Hunter, Sergio, and then Brett. If I was going to put those, you know, 4 in places, assuming they're the only 4 in the show.
Sergio and Hunter haven't been on stage together yet, though, have they?
No. I just think that, and you know why I say that, and I love Sergio's look, but Hunter is, for whatever reason, to me, when he gets up next to guys, he's more dominant all by himself next to everyone else. Like, he does look a little more out of place, even when Sergio wins. You know,
right.
He looks kind of like the other guys. And I felt like Hunter, when he was dead nuts on, you know, just he was pretty head and shoulders above, even against, and I know he wasn't dead nuts on, but, you know, even against Ian, it seemed pretty drastic between the two. And obviously, you fast forward to the Olympia and they flip flopped. So we'll see. But everyone at their best, that would be my guess for sure.
Okay. I got one for you. Weirdest situation where you got paid to be a bodybuilder? Like, have you ever guest posed at a bachelorette party or anything that turned out to be sort of weird?
That's a great question. I mean, the weirdest thing that I've had offered that I didn't actually follow through on was I actually got offered in Scottsdale because I was in prep and I got offered paid to come to a party and just be there as someone who like hangs out by the pool and brings people in and out for rich like soccer mom.
Right.
You know? But she had a handful of like not just great physiques, crazy physiques. She wanted to buy a human for the night. You know what I mean? And I just remember the only thing that was funny is everybody probably thinks I have like this pride issue. I just remember thinking, I don't know what I would say to people all night. I don't want to. It seems weird. Like,
right.
You hear she's paying me to, I don't know.
I'm kind of the entertainment, but I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Well, it's like if I was pretty, I would get it. I'd be like, I'm very handsome.
Wow. I mean, look
here. Yeah. Like, I'm like, am I going to wear a bag?
Just walk around with a paper bag on your head like the Unknown Comic. Remember him?
Exactly. Or that famous singer, the Sia or whatever, that keeps the hair down. I was like, yeah, I think if I was, you know, like a really like good looking dude, I'd be like, well, I'm the fucking model. Duh. Look at me.
That's funny.
When you're kind of average, you're kind of like, really? No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
I'd be an asshole because I'd be like, oh, these rich schmucks that literally they purchased me as a human. So yeah, but I haven't actually done anything cool. I'm actually more blown away. Like when you get to do, you know, back in the day, we used to have guest posers. That was exciting.
Hey, yeah, I know. I'm lucky I actually got to guest pose at one point.
Yeah, I did a few. I liked them, and we basically don't do that anymore because we want money for our time. Shocking.
Yeah. I have a funny one. I got a call once. This is when I lived in Edmonton, and there's not a lot of filming that goes on there, but the odd commercial, the odd TV show, you know, like, for example, like, remember Legends of the Fall, Brad Pitt?
Of course I remember. Greatest movie of all time.
That was filmed in Alberta. And The Revenant with DiCaprio.
Yes.
That was filmed in Alberta. So yeah. So like the odd big movie will come, right?
Right.
And so I like knew a casting agent there, and he would call me once in a while for a commercial or whatever. And he called me once. He's like, "Oh, hey, I got this gig. It's short notice, but they're looking for a bodybuilder, and I know you're dieting right now, and they want you to like you got to be ripped and have abs, and they want you to be as big as possible."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, well, it was perfect timing. I looked fucking crazy. It was like 3 weeks out."
Right.
He's like, "Yeah, it's for some commercial."
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go down, and I get there, and everyone there is really weird. Like they're super weird. Like I don't know how to explain it, but they're just like, you just sort of think, oh, everyone here has kind of got a bit of like an oddball thing going on.
Okay.
No one's normal. And then they start explaining the commercial, and it's for like this. This was like years ago, but it was for this. It was like a marijuana substitute. Like it was like this green herb stuff that you smoke, but it was legal. But it wasn't pot.
I had to go against everything you stood for. Go ahead.
And she's like, yeah, and then we need the big guy to do this, and then you're gonna like take a puff, and then blah blah blah. And they explained the concept of the ad to me, and it was like kind of like an infomercial.
Right.
And I was like, I can't be a part of this. I don't smoke this stuff.
Right.
And it was at the point where I was no longer, and this just kind of happens, but I've been sponsored by Mutant for a while.
Right.
So I wasn't just an absolute unrecognizable face
Right.
that could just do a commercial.
Yeah, with no repercussions possibly of what you're doing.
Like I was actually being paid to endorse Mutant products by that point.
Right.
So I was like, well, I don't want to be like endorsing Mutant products and endorsing Gasp and then appear to be endorsing this.
Which I don't endorse.
Which I don't endorse because it just sort of was like, I mean, it's different if you're just an actor who's just trying to get any commercial you want. You don't give a shit.
You're trying to pay your rent.
Yeah. You're like, well, in 20 years when I'm on, the Tonight Show, we can play this commercial and it'll be funny.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, well, it's kind of weird because it'll seem like I'm actually endorsing it.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that was all in my head, but it just felt fucking weird because it was like kind of creepy too. Like they wanted me to wear this little tie like I was at like a party.
Right.
But no shirt.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'm like smoking and they had the corniest dialogue.
Right.
Like I was reading the lines and I was like, this isn't funny. This is fucking stupid. Like, so I finally we took a little break before we were about to start filming. And I was like, you know what? I still feel comfortable doing this. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, because I didn't audition for it or anything.
Yeah. You found out what you were there for just now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they called me. They're like, we need a bodybuilder. And like I sent one photo and they're like, send him.
Right.
So it was funny.
What you get into.
So I left. The casting guy called me. He's like, what happened? I'm like, dude, that was a fucked up situation. He just started laughing. He's like, oh, okay, well, those happen.
What's crazy though is I'm glad that you said that because I wish more people would understand that. The importance of that. I think a lot of people might think in their head like, well, that's dumb. You pass away money for no big deal. But I look at it as huge because whether you were thinking this forward or not, you've chosen very carefully what you've branded yourself with. And that allows you to say XYZ is good and you're following to believe you. Just
right.
Because you said it. Like when you endorse Mutant, the assumption is it must be good even before you said it because Ron wouldn't get with them if they weren't. You know what I mean? And, I know I've had that as well. I just had it barely. I sent the owner of Condemned Labs a screenshot because the guy said, hey, I just ordered these two products from them purely because I needed new ones and you're with them.
Yeah.
Are they any good?
Yeah.
Didn't look at them. You know what I mean? And then what was funny was when I described the ingredients, he actually comes back to me and goes, shit, I ordered Yohimbine separate. Didn't realize it was in there. Could have saved some money. So the point is like, if you endorse every company that wants to throw money at you, when you get to Mutant or whatever company in the future, people are like, Ron will fucking endorse anybody that pays him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why commercials were always weird for me. Like I've done a bunch of them, but the ones that were easy to do were like, where there wasn't any sort of like crossover in that way.
Right. You're like, I like soap. That'll be fun.
Like I did a commercial for a demolition company.
Right.
And it was like, you call guys and they come to your house and they fucking tear down your third bedroom and clean it out and,
Right.
get in there to rebuild the, reno the room. Right.
Right.
And it was kind of a goofy commercial where they had like the cheap demo team and it looked like a bunch of ex-cons,
right,
with hammers, and they're like smoking.
Right.
And then it had their demo team and it was all these like calendar firemen that were like, really clean and they had clean wheelbarrows and like nice tools and they were going to do a good job. And they had plastic wrap up to protect your house.
Right.
And I was one of like the shitty guys. I had like a toque on and I had a big beard and I had a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and I had a shovel. And like, that was fucking hilarious to me because obviously I'm not myself.
Right.
Because I wasn't a bodybuilder. I was actually completely covered like a thug.
Okay. It was just the fact that you were a big
guy.
Dude.
Big guy with a beard. They wanted a 300-pound guy with a beard. So there I was.
Right.
And the other team was the shirtless firemen.
Oh, that's even better. You were not. That's because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, you were the. Oh,
no.
You were the bad.
I got picked as one of like the ugly, rough-looking dudes. Yeah. I even had like a bit of a black eye. They gave me some makeup. It was funny.
Oh, that's great.
And then they had these fire guys. And when the fire guys showed up, I had trained and dieted 2 of them for shows.
You're like,
so they
even better than this.
So they showed up and they're like, Ron, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm one of the fucking scrubs. And they're just laughing because they're all there. They're like shirtless and stuff. It was funny, man.
That's good
so
shit.
It's because I wasn't a bodybuilder. If I would have been shirtless in that commercial and representing myself as a bodybuilder, it would have been, maybe it would have been different to me. But because I wasn't, I had no problem,
Right. No, that totally makes sense.
So, okay, your turn.
Okay, let's see here. Favorite short bodybuilder? Flex, Lee Priest, Franco, Padilla.
How short is short?
Well, he's counting Labrada.
Okay.
I mean, you got Flex in there. He's freaking 5'6".
Well, Flex Lewis is the best short bodybuilder in all of history.
Right.
So
best. He said favorite.
Right, favorite. So, so we're talking physiques.
Favorite short bodybuilder.
You got to say Sean Ray. He's in there too. I mean, come on now. That's one of the most amazing physiques ever developed, and the consistency of his career and how good he was and how he battled the big guys. And, whether or not you like Sean Ray as a person, you just look at all of his photos from the late 80 Olympias all the way up till he retired. And it's hard to believe that you could keep a body that clean looking and injury free and, just beautiful, round, striated muscle head to toe. What absolutely astonishing physique. I think Sean Ray is just one of the most perfect physiques ever. And he has to be on the list of greatest short bodybuilders of all time. But I'd say Flex Lewis is without a doubt the greatest.
Right.
And, everyone else is behind that. Danny Padilla was ahead of his time.
Yep.
The conditioning that guy brought, those guys dieted hard, man. Have you ever listened to Danny talk about how he got that shredded for like the early 80s?
Mm.
They're dieting on they're doing 1,000-calorie days, man.
Right.
Like they're not fucking around. They're just like at all costs.
But I think it's funny that has become right around the time that the whole macro craze started happening, and the idea that no, you don't have to be so crazy with your diet to get in shape. And people aren't getting in the shape they used to be in. Like people will say, like, "Oh, how low do your calories go when you're in prep?" I'm like, as low as they have to.
Yeah, I've done lots of 2,000-calorie days.
I've never even bothered to add it up, but I know I do laugh because I have clients even that will say, like, I got a guy just this week. He's like, "Yeah, I could definitely tell I'm getting a little tired." And he's newer, so I'm not even picking on him. He's like, "I'm getting a little tired from the diet and this and that." And he came to me fat enough that I'm getting him lean to start the off season.
Right.
And I told him, I said, listen, no disrespect. No, you're feeding off of fat. You're fine. Like you're bringing in 400 grams of carbs right now. It's just not all the junk you were having before. I'm like, man, I go 50 grams of carbs for a month and don't think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as me in that department, I would go. I've always loved the freaks of size, and nasty probably because it lines up with what I try to emulate. So my answer is easy. It's Jose because it just doesn't get much freakier. Plus, I loved Jose's.
That's ultra short.
Yeah,
That's another category.
I didn't want to call him short though. I wanted to call him vertically challenged.
He's a fantastic one to add to the conversation because when people ask me who's a great bodybuilder, I'm not that impressed if you were amazing once.
Right.
I'm not that impressed if you were a great pro for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. Like, it's amazing, but there's something about longevity and repeated winning and repeated dominance over and over and over and over and over and over. Like, you know what I mean? And so when you say that, I mean, then, you know, obviously Jose is like, fuck, he's one of the top guys on the list. If you want to talk about the career.
Well, here's what's funny too, that I think a lot of people don't realize. It's funny to me because the sport moves so quickly. There are guys that are into it now that don't realize who he is or who he was because he didn't push social media and stuff. But according to today's standards, Jose would have turned pro 8 times.
Yeah.
And the only reason that
just
Jose
for inflation.
Well, and what he used to do, what's funny is, so Jose won, and I don't want to be quoted on the classes, but I want to say lightweight on up. Lightweight at USA's, then goes and wins at Nationals, then comes back to the USA's the following year, goes up a class, wins, goes to Nationals, wins, goes back the following year to USA's, goes up a class, wins. Like, that's what he was doing because there was nowhere for him to go because they only had open bodybuilding. He had no intention of ever taking his pro card. Those 2 shows were his shows that he was competing in every year. And what's crazy, I just pulled it up because I wanted to be able to list it because a lot of people don't understand this. So Jose, when he finally accepts a pro card because of the 212, he's still natural.
Yeah.
He's won all these times. And a lot of people didn't believe that, of course, right? So this is what's crazy. He did the New York Pro in May of 2009, okay, at 100, let's see what it says here. 3-month transformation. 184 pounds at the New York Pro in late 2009 to 202 pounds in September 1st of 2009 because he went on.
That's for the gas hit.
In 3 months. He's like, oh, this is how this is done at this level. And the pictures on his page, and what's funny, he was already great. But just
he's already a pro.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and he'd already won so many things. So I always love that. Plus, you know, I also love just had he done social media the way I wish he would have, more people would realize like the comments and stuff. Do you remember when he did the bearded lady routine at the press conference? I just remember thinking only Jose thinks of it that quick. You know, he's like, at the end of the day, it's like the circus. Everyone comes to see the freak, and I'm the bearded lady.
Yeah, that's his best quote. His best quote.
There's endless ones, but yeah. So he would definitely be my favorite, and one I wish that more guys that are young now would realize. Like even now, he's back training. The other day, I watched him. He's back on incline bench doing a drop set starting at 405 for like 6 reps at 230 pounds in 5.
And well, how old is he? 46.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's funny now. Like, I know what 45 feels like.
Right.
And it feels great. Don't get me wrong. But there's just things you're like, there's certain joints that have had enough. They're still good. I could still use them. You know, I can still 12 rep to failure and train fucking hard, but I'm not going to 5 rep to failure with those joints anymore.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like I actually, because I don't, you know me, like it's very rare that I comment on things, and it was a story, and I literally texted him, I'm like, you're back. And he sent back, all he responded with, he goes, I only know one speed.
I only know one speed, yeah.
I'm
That's true. It's true.
Valid. You're up.
What do you think constitutes a good leader?
Geez, this could be an endless one. But the simple stuff for me, the first step to being a good leader is leading by example. So I don't consider a leader to be the one that points to work. You know what I mean? So I find that when I think leader at this point in life, I think sports and business, everything, the shit falls from the top. Meaning like, for example, when I owned my retail stores, everyone knew that, like, I had an example, which was if the floor ever needs to be cleaned, we're in trouble. Meaning clean it every fucking day. But that's how I live. It's what I did. And so that's what happens. When I had sold it, my friend Lance is very lax with stuff like that. My same employees' bathrooms got dirty. I remember I told him one day, I would fire you if you worked for me. You own the stores now. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the first step. I could go on for hours, but I think the biggest one is leading by example, because people mimic what you do, not what you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. I think, in my, anyone can just Google a list of what makes a great leader, and there's,
right,
a bunch of stuff that makes a great leader. But I think when I think of people that I have thought were great leaders is, they showed gratitude, first of all, right? Because I always found the people that would, show gratitude to not only their staff, but their customers, the people around them. There's a different vibe about being part of that type of I'm thinking business or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So showing gratitude's a big thing. The ability to delegate's really important. Obviously, you can't do everything yourself. Some people can't let go of the reins, and then they just wind up micromanaging everything, and that's difficult. So I've worked for people that couldn't allow their staff to just work.
Yeah. But meanwhile, they selected their staff with the assumption that they would do their job, and they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I can say too, though, and you know this because you do it, it is hard to do, because you have to allow them to do it, and you have to give them enough rope to hang themselves if it happens.
Yeah. I remember one time working at one of the clubs I was at. We had a really busy night. We had a new bartender on, and he'd worked like day shift, but he hadn't done a busy night yet. And I remember my boss was like, well, he knows how to do the job because he's worked here during the day, right? He knows everything. He knows how to do everything.
Right.
But there's only one way to work Friday and Saturday nights. You just trial by fire.
Yep.
Just let him. We'll just see how he is Sunday morning. We'll see if he's still alive.
Did he quit?
Right. But that guy like stepped up. Right. Friday night he was like, holy fuck. And Saturday night he was like, I can't believe I made it. And then the next weekend he was a grizzled veteran.
Isn't that funny? I love that. Like when I think of those opportunities, this isn't really leadership, but it just reminded me of I think of the first time Milan Lucic played at the Garden, or not the Garden, no, in Boston. I'm sorry. He very first game as a professional, first shift fight.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what I'm here to do. Like, you know what I mean? And I love that shit. And I know we're going to get badged by people that say he sucks or cheap art, whatever. But I just remember looking back at that and being like, 18 years old, day one, you know what I mean? Like you said, trial by fire. And he's like, I'm going to fight now because this is what I do. Like, right. You know what I mean? How else am I going to find out if I can hang at this level? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also remember being in Boston, the crowd was like, so we like this kid.
Well, he's giving them what they paid for.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the traits that if you do like a search on good leadership or whatever, one of the traits that comes up all the time is good leaders, and Gary Vee says this too. Good leaders are people that are always working on themselves.
True. Yep.
Like if you're not doing any personal development, if you're just standing still, you can't expect everyone underneath you to move up.
Right.
You have to always be moving up in some way too, whether you're trying to get better with how you manage your time or better with how you, even if it's making sure your personal time is used in a way that makes you a positive person to be around on work hours, just trying to develop yourself.
Yeah.
As soon as you stop, everything else below you notices.
Yeah. And also be able to see talent. You know, like when I worked at the supplement store, I got a job there working for nothing, and it wasn't until the business sold that I was like the low man on the totem pole. Within a month of the new owner, I was the guy. He was like,
Right.
okay, you get this. You know what I mean? And it kind of went full circle almost immediately because he noticed I fit what he needed, which made him a good leader. Because he came in, it was funny. I learned a ton from him. He's probably one of my best mentors. But for the first 2 or 3 weeks, he literally would come to the store and say and do nothing, just watch. He
Right.
watched how the business ran already before he made any alterations, and even let us do things that he probably thought in hindsight were terrible, but he just let it go. Like, all right, I'm going to watch this roll, you know what I mean? Until he fixed it, which is also why low man on the totem pole became the GM, because he watched and he's like, oh, well, the new kid's actually the best employee I have. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
There was no pre. So I gotta slide over now because of course I'm stuck on these. Ever since people have realized I did hockey, I get a lot of hockey questions now.
Oh, excellent.
But you can hang on this one. This one I know. The greatest moment in professional hockey ever.
The retirement of Wayne Gretzky was a moment that I'll never forget as a Canadian.
Right.
Yeah. The official like ceremony where they had him come back to Edmonton.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like he retired as a Ranger. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He gave his wave, played his last game as a New York Ranger. It was all great. But then they brought him back to Edmonton.
Right.
And they hung his jersey up his banner up in the Edmonton Coliseum.
Right.
And, you know, and do you remember who Joey Moss was?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Joey Moss just died.
Did not know that.
Yeah. He was I believe he was in his 50s or 40s, but 50s maybe. But Joey Moss just passed away. For those of you who don't know, back in the 80s when Wayne Gretzky was winning all the cups with the Edmonton Oilers, the Edmonton Oilers had a man named Joey Moss, who at the time was just a kid, and he had Down syndrome. And Joey Moss was the stick guy, the stick boy for the Oilers.
Yep.
And he would take care of all the sticks, you know? And, you know, he stayed with the Oilers for like 35, like, I don't know how many years he was a stick guy for the Oilers, but he stayed there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, for ages and ages. He was there for ages. Anyways, Gretzky and Joey did a whole bunch of like awareness campaigns and stuff, you know, because Joey had Downs.
Yeah.
And sort of this sportsmanship campaign they did. I can't remember the details. But so he was kind of famous. But anyways, they brought Joey out and Joey raised the banner.
That's awesome. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
They
it was good.
Retire his jersey for every team?
They retired his number for the
Yeah.
whole league.
Yeah.
No one can wear 99.
Yeah, you can't be that. Like that's another level. It's like, no one in any jersey can
Doesn't
wear
matter
that
what team.
number. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was awesome. But personally, I also had, I think, as far as like being just so stoked for a guy, I was a huge Bruins fan. Mm-hmm. So I was a Ray Bourque fan.
Right.
And when Ray Bourque went to Colorado and won that fucking cup with Sakic,
right,
that was awesome. I remember just being like so happy when they won. And I remember they called Joe out because he's a captain, because they give the cup to the captain, right?
Yeah, and he's
like, I've already raised this cup.
Right.
He's like, there's someone here who hasn't.
Right.
But he's been here for 23 years.
Yeah, kind of a earned situation.
Yeah, so Joe took the cup, gave it to Ray, and then Ray took the first skate with it.
Right.
That was awesome. And then, you know, those moments are, for me, huge moments. I also think, to me as a Canadian, I don't know if it counts as professional hockey because it was Olympic, but Sidney Crosby's golden goal in 2010 to beat the U.S. team in overtime for the gold medal. That was probably like the loudest goal in Canadian history.
Yeah.
Because literally, if you had your window to your house open, you heard the whole city go, rah, wherever you lived.
Yeah, in every city, I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, we were watching the Olympics, and I was living in a townhouse at the time, right? So I had neighbors
Hmm.
and a complex, and we were watching, and he scored. I think it was like noon,
Right.
and we're so sitting in bed at noon, like watching the game, and he scored to win the gold medal. I can't remember where the Olympics was. It was in Vancouver in 2010. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's here in Vancouver, but you just heard in Edmonton, you just heard like all my neighbors, like the whole neighborhood just got
It almost
fucking
throw
loud.
you off when it happened because you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. You're like, neighbors are screaming, like everyone was screaming. Yeah. That was it.
We now know that we are all watching the same thing.
Yeah. So those are just a few that come to mind, but I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on who your team is, right?
Yeah. Well, I like that you went with the personal because that's the funny thing is, so I think that one of the most like iconic is, of course, Bobby Orr's
The goal.
cup winner. The goal, exactly, was literally
The goal.
called. Yeah.
Most
And-
famous hockey photo ever taken.
Yeah. I mean, that for sure is the moment, I think.
Number 4, Bobby Orr.
But just like you, like for me, when Steve Yzerman won Game 6 on, like, I don't know, triple overtime or whatever against St. Louis to go to the Stanley Cup Finals with a shot from the freaking blue line, just a rocket. I remember that game because it was like the first time where essentially, pushing an adult at that point. I remember almost feeling like I was emotional on the win, like I was there. I was like, holy shit. Like, it's happening. I'm like, I have nothing to do with this game. Like,
Right.
This is really impacting my life right now. So it's funny. And he's like the guy, if you're a Detroit guy.
Yeah,
Permanently.
Stevie Y. Hey,
Yeah.
even if you're a Canadian Olympic guy, Stevie Y was a big part of the Canadian Olympic history.
Yeah.
Gold medals, and he coached the team at one point, like,
Well,
yeah,
what's funny.
amazing.
That was one of another questions I had was someone asked me because, obviously he's a Detroit guy. Then he went down to Florida and the Lightning obviously won a cup with him. And now he's back in the office in Detroit. And they're like, isn't it only a matter of time? And my answer is, of course, because he's a winner.
Yeah, he's a winner.
And that's what winners do. Like, they win. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's 100% true. That was a great question.
yeah, I loved it. I saw that. I was like, ooh, I held it because it was the first question. I needed a minute to get ready.
So my answers were viable.
Solid. But see, this is what people realize about. There's nothing about being in the U.S. like hockey with Canada. Like, you're not an obsessive hockey guy, but you can rattle them off because by default you are.
Part of the culture growing up.
Yeah, you know as much about hockey as a lot of Americans who think they know hockey don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, just default growing up, Hockey Night in Canada on TV, it's part of it. It's part of it. Yeah, you bet, man. Rock'em Sock'em 13 and you're stocking for Christmas. And then next year, Rock'em Sock'em 14.
You already know what you want for the following year.
And the following year after that, Rock'em Sock'em 15.
You know what to do, Dad. You know what to do. I mean, Santa.
What a great way to just guarantee sales every year.
Yep.
Release the Rock'em Sock'em at Christmas time and just
I got them every year.
wipe your hands, wait for the money to roll in.
Yep. Like, there's more kids now. We'll make more money. It's fun.
Yeah. And now fighting in hockey is uncool.
You saw my rant, huh? Dude, I went down like you know how like something will knock you in a direction. I went down a rabbit hole and I took Tommy with me, and I didn't even know it because he doesn't sleep either. So he saw my post, and then next thing you know, he's sending me quotes from other sports that were like from hardcore days. You know what I mean? I was dying because I had so many people that totally understood what I was talking about because I was watching. So I have the NHL Center Ice package or whatever it's called. So every night I watch every game in a 5-minute review. And the very first thing the puck drops and they go, oh, here we go. And they look and they show two guys drop the gloves and then they skip it. I'm like, what happened? I literally thought something happened on my computer. So I went back on my phone. I clicked backwards to watch it again. I was like, oh, it's skipped. No, they just don't show it.
Right. Cut the rumble out.
Yeah, I was like, so then I ended up down the rabbit hole because I go online and start looking at old fights. And then like 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, I should probably try to sleep.
Yeah. You're watching Semenko highlights from the 80s.
So what's funny? So
Probert.
Tommy
highlights.
sends this to me. I have to read this real quick because it made me laugh. He goes, the old days were a different time and it were different men. And he sends me this Pete Rose quote. It says, "I'd walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball." And I was like, yeah, I don't think people say that anymore.
That's funny.
And if you knew Pete Rose, you're like, yes, you would.
Yeah.
Yes, you fucking would.
That's funny. I remember I dated a girl once and her mom hated hockey. She would be like, "Oh, it's unprofessional boxing. That's all it is. They're just a bunch of violent maniac animals." That's how she would talk about hockey.
That's painful. Oh.
And I remember just being like, "Oh God, I can't stand you."
I'm surprised you didn't throw her out of the country.
Yeah.
Deported. Why were you deported? She talked shit about the sport of hockey.
Totally.
What's yours? What do you got here? Number question.
Well, I had someone ask me if I didn't open the gym, what business would I start?
I'm curious.
Well, the gym's the only business I can think of that I had like the passion to give into. You know what I mean? Because of obviously I love the gym.
Right.
So, like, for example, if you have something else you really love, but it doesn't make any money. Like
right.
The gym's one thing where most people tell you most gyms fail. Like, yeah, but some don't. So there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Tell me there's a chance. I can make some money at this, possibly down the road. Okay, I'm in. But,
right.
Let's say my other passion is, I don't know, these silly bikes. That's a tough market.
Right.
You're going to open a Flatland BMX brick and mortar store?
Yeah. I'm always amazed when you see businesses like that.
That's an online shop, and it's already done.
Yeah. Don't try to fuck with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, guys that have been in the industry for 30 years and have the loyalty of every single other person that shop off them.
Yeah, exactly. Not random ex-bodybuilders. It's like,
I
like bikes too.
Yeah. So if I was going to do another business, it wouldn't be a passion project. It would be pure money.
Right.
I'd look at where's the highest profit margin and the lowest entry barriers. And you start looking for something that's for sale in the area, possibly. You never know. You might get someone trying to get out so they can liquidate for a divorce or something. Never know, and you get a good deal on a business that's already up and running.
Yeah.
And then some businesses, you don't want to buy one. You just want to start one.
Oh, for sure. I would never open a gym. I'd buy a gym.
Right. So there's just all these different, things, but it would be purely money and profit, and it would be all numbers. And I would not give a fuck about what I was fucking selling. It could be fucking this little fucking scented oil vaporizer thing that my girlfriend has to make the room smell pretty. I wouldn't give a fuck. It would be pure money. Pure money.
I love that, because here's what's interesting though, is some of us, a passion that I have is buying something for $1 and selling it for $2.
Well, there you go. The passion is in the fucking money.
That's it. But because you are providing a service, and for someone, this particular spoon that I'm selling for $2 that I bought for $1 has a value. You know what I mean? But I totally feel you. I do tell people by default, because I don't know why, but a lot of people ask questions. Like, I had a guy literally just say to me, how do I make more money? And I'm like,
yeah,
it's a really broad question. So I was like, do you have any passions?
Not really. Yeah, that's the first question.
Yeah.
That's the first question. Do you have any passions? Because there might be a passion you can, properly exploit. Share with everyone else to make a buck. It's possible.
Remember, it's like, I think the one thing that throws people off when you think of a business is, even though we're saying, make money, you can be extremely happy making 40 grand a year if you do something you love. I couldn't, but I know a lot of people could.
Well, maybe you have something else that makes you 60 grand.
Yeah.
So the fun business that you super love that only makes you 40, it's still worth it, because you just love the fact that you get to give people that service and you're the best at it and you love your thing. but you have enough money coming in, even if it only makes fucking 20 grand, if it's still worth it to have it, it's going to be your favorite.
Yeah. Well, most hobbies cost us money. So you find one that makes you one. That's a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, you got to start with your passion. So you go, what will get me out of bed?
Yeah.
Well, I love, now
it's what will keep you working after work.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, like I was up.
We have these people like this guy who tells us to me, and I'm like, and he literally, the reason he asked, he said, I have no extra money. But then when I try to get some conversation on what he could do, it was nothing. And I'm like, well, then you're fucked. I don't know what to say, because everyone gets their day over, and, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. You have kids, you don't have kids, whatever your responsibilities are. But there is some point where it ends, and you have a choice of what to do with the time. And you can either become an expert, make some money, go to sleep, watch TV, whatever you want to do. But I think a lot of people fall immediately to the victim. And I mean, I have a hard time watching shows because I have too much shit going on.
Right. I know what you mean.
It's a weird factor to me, because I wanted to help, and I still do. I haven't figured out how, but it's like getting someone to understand, like, if your answer is just, I don't know, well then you're fucked. I'm just trying to guide you. I can't hand it to you. If there was an easy way to make money, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff. Like, for example, you know, as far as like passion and work and paying other people to do stuff, I don't know if you saw on my Instagram, but I got some new bike parts this week.
I did.
And I built my front wheel. I had to take the hub out and replace the hub. So I had to take all the spokes out, you know, take the tire off, take all the spokes out, take the wheel apart, take the new hub, lace all the spokes into it, lace it all into the wheel. And then I had to true the wheel, where you spin it and tighten the spokes until it actually goes straight. Because when you first put it on, it's kind of whoa. And you get it all even, and then you take it off, put the tire on it, true it again, you know, like, and I learned it all from a YouTube video. I just said, well, it can't be that hard. It's just all these parts, and there's threads and things screw into each other. It's got to be like building Lego for adults. I'm sure I can build a wheel. So I just followed a YouTube video and and then I watched a second video on how to true the wheel, you know, so it goes dead straight when you spin it. And I just took my time and did it. And the next day, Emily's like, how late were you up last night? I'm like, oh, I went to bed around 2. And she's like, you started working on that wheel at 11. And I'm like, yeah, it took about 3 hours to build it and true it and get it perfect.
Right.
And she's like, couldn't you have paid someone to do that? And I'm like, yeah, I could have, but it was actually fun. Like, I enjoyed it.
Right.
I was like learning a skill. And now when I look at that wheel, I'm like, fuck, I built that wheel. I know how to do that. That's cool. I can do that.
Right.
Because I always found that to be like, for most people, it doesn't matter what type of bike you ride, mountain bike, whatever the fuck, lacing a wheel is like a really intimidating thing. Like, most guys don't do it. They're like, oh, lacing wheels, that's the bike shop.
Right.
Right?
Me, obviously.
They're like, oh, it's $50 at a bike shop. Fuck that. Get them to build it.
Right.
But for some reason, I really wanted to. So it was just kind of interesting. So if you have passion for something, you know, the old saying, it doesn't seem like work. It was fun. I found the whole thing fun.
No, I totally get that. That's fun. It's. I also find it interesting because you can see. I have friends with kids and they've grown, but it's funny. I watched one of the guy who used to own my stores. I watched his twins when they were kids, and it was so funny. At one point, his son was, I don't know, 1.5, right? And he was opening a cupboard door, but he was looking in because he wanted to understand. Like, you literally realize he was trying to figure out how it was opening.
Where he's watching the hinge.
Yeah, and he's watching it, and then he would come to the other side, and he came home, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what he's going to do, but it's going to be something, because I've never seen, if I was a kid, I'd be like, wham, slam, walk, who gives a fuck?
He's already starting his engineering degree.
Yeah, he was literally analyzing how it was working, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care and never did.
By the time he's 8, he's going to be eating his cereal one morning, and he's going to go look up, and he's going to go, you know, Dad, I think I can do a better hinge.
That's what's funny. I mean, dead serious. That's what because his dad's a genius too. So that's why I told him, like, I don't know how he's going to change the world, but I can't wait till he does. And if I could just get in on the investment, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah. What was that question even? It was, what business would you have?
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I couldn't even possibly answer, because it is, this is true. Now that you're in business and people know you're successful at them, opportunities kind of come.
Yeah, been offered a lot of things. Hey, would you look at this? Would you look at that? Would you look at this? Would you look at that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, and it's the same with finances in general. Like once you've kind of proven yourself, things pop up. So it's a little different for me now. Like I look at every opportunity and see, and sometimes it's just the money needs to exercise, and sometimes I might need to, you know?
Right.
So it's definitely fun. Definitely fun.
Okay. Your turn, buddy.
Bum, bum, bum.
You know what, though? I'm going to take a bathroom break.
You and your...
It's because I got this new, look at my West Coast jug. This big fucking thing.
I do like it. Oh, by the way, I'm out of town, but I was told that a package came to me from West Coast.
A package you may have mail.
I'm very excited to see this.
You know, that piss was so big that I actually thought, hey, 1 liter is 2.2 pounds. I don't know why that number came into my head, but it did. Why are you laughing while I'm gone? What's been going on?
Because you leave, and like a typical person of this day and age, I had to entertain my mind while you were gone. I can't just sit here like a normal person. And I happened to pull up JP's stories, and I have to bring this up because it drives me nuts. I'm annoyed, as you know, once I'm annoyed by something, it's fucking earth-shattering, by the bands that people choose to use on a reverse hack.
Oh, yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Right, because they're not quite the right setup. Yeah, they're way too tight, way too powerful.
Like there's a friend of mine, I have to throw that out there, it's a girl that trains at my gym, who hasn't gathered the fact that she is using the green band that's this thick might have something to do with the 6 plates aside on the hack.
Right.
So, anyways, happened to just glance while you're gone, and Jordan puts up a story that says, I'm quite fond of the idea of simulation theory. I certainly don't dismiss it. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted. Shit, wrong one. There we go. One day soon, the reserve band that's being used to lift too much on the hack, and then in parentheses, and not for its intended purposes of adjusting the resistance profile on the lift, is going to snap, and I am going to enjoy watching that video. I just read that, I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about resistance profiles quickly. So here's the rule. If you have whatever weight you have on the hack squat, whatever weight you have on there, be it 4 plates, 5 plates, 6 plates, whatever, it should weigh 100% of its weight for at least half the rep.
Valid.
Is that safe?
Yeah.
Or even a third, the top third of the rep.
Yeah.
Totally deloaded.
Yeah.
Or sorry, totally loaded.
Yep.
That band should be nothing. It should be like a loose guitar string where it's like kind of got some sag, or you pull it and it goes blah, 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 like,
right. Yeah. You can easily.
Nothing. It's not until like a third of the way down, like your knees are already bent like that much.
Right.
Before the band is even like aware it's loaded. And then now it's stretching a bit, and now it's actually pulling.
Right.
And then as you drive out of the hack, totally slack. No resist. Now it's full load.
Right.
Right. So if the band is still tight at the top and deloading, it's too much band.
Yeah, it's funny because I understand it doesn't matter, but the reason it matters to me is because you're actually not. I'm not concerned with how much weight you're using. It's not doing its job.
Right. The job's to flatten the strength curve.
Exactly. And it's funny, and I'm going to bring this up because we don't have a chance before the weekend, but I learned it from Luke, because it was something that he and I discussed, because I had asked him about it, because I'm like, why do you use a fucking band? Like, you're as strong or stronger than I am, and I don't use a fucking band. And he was like, no, it's not for that. He goes, there's a little point in the bottom, he goes, where I swear there's no muscle involvement. It's my joint. It's my knee that's taking all of that weight for just a split second. He goes, and once I put that band on there, that really light band, I take away that point. I have no knee pain at all.
Oh, right.
I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it because I don't have knee pain now, but I'm a big believer in how you never have knee pain and stay ahead of it. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to throw one on. I tried it, and I immediately said two things. One, yes, my knee feels better. Two, one of these plates isn't really there in my mind anymore. Because at the hardest point for me, I feel like it actually pulls a 45-pound plate off, even the smallest one. So when people say, oh, you did 11 plates aside, I'm like, 10. Yeah.
Well, off the bottom of the rep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I can do exactly what I'm doing, but I would lose a rep if I didn't have the band.
A good test for everyone is put your band on and then drop the sled.
Valid. Yeah.
Right? So when we put our band on for hacks, when we drop the sled, it goes right to the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
And the sled weighs about 100 pounds. So we know that the band doesn't deload 100 pounds off the bottom. It deloads less than 100.
At the strongest point of the band. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you grab the sled and pull, and it's pretty light to get it to lift. And then obviously it immediately starts getting heavier. And then by about halfway up, the sled's about 100 pounds again. We got to rack it.
Right.
So, but yeah, imagine some of the bands these people have. They could unlock the hack and drop it, and it wouldn't hit the bottom.
Some of them wouldn't move.
Wouldn't even go past the stoppers.
Because I had one.
Rack.
So the girl, and I can say this because she didn't watch the show, and I'm not picking on her, but that does it. Not only does she use the big band, but she actually wraps it around where the weights go. So it goes from the weight to the top, around the back to the other pole of the weight.
Right. So it's really, really, really.
It's already just pulled the shit. I'm like, to get it down, I think I'd have to pull it down with no weight. Like, I think I'd have to physically use my body weight to bring the weight to the bottom.
Hang on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it's not the point. Because so this, you'll love this, and I'll let this go because I've ranted now. So the other day, we're training up here in South Carolina, and I said, we weren't using a band, and my knee was bugging me. And I'm like, does this gym not have a band? And they were like, I don't know, let's look. So they went to the front desk, and they had one. They brought it out, and it was on its last leg. And I said, fuck it, put it on. I'm like, I'm going to put it on to where if it breaks, it hits me in the arm. I'm going to keep my hands up the whole time. So they're like, okay. So I did my set. It worked. One of my training partners, he went for it. It broke during his set. Literally. Nothing happened. But he was strong to finish the set. And still within the rep range I wanted him in. I'm like, see, that's the right band.
Right.
He still was in rep range, and he missed. It broke at like third rep. So he had to bust out 9 more reps on his own. Got him. And I'm like, and I told him, because they don't use them, I'm like, buy another band because you guys should be using this for longevity, and I'd like using it anyways. But that's the right weight. If you're adding plates because you have a band.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
I agree.
So anyways, yeah, that was my moment while you were away.
Okay. Is it my turn now?
Yes, because I went on a rampage.
You went on a rampage. Someone's asking, remember last week we talked about plastics?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you watch that Joe Rogan clip? I think I sent it to you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Pretty fascinating, eh? Makes you think. So this guy says, hey, are you avoiding all plastics, or you just avoid microwaving in plastic? And I have to admit, I'm not avoiding all plastics. I do put an effort in. But like, for example, this jug is plastic, but I would never heat it. Like, it's got the correct number on the bottom for, the stuff you're supposed to be able to drink out of. But I never microwave plastic, ever. Just so people know, I'm very big on that. Mm-hmm. I really, really, obviously, if I was in a pinch and I had no food and had a meal, I would, heat it up a bit. But I really try to avoid that. I haven't microwaved plastic in my house for, probably 15 years.
Yeah, I used to not care. And to be honest with you, can't even bullshit. I don't now, but it's because I'm at home all the time now. Mm-hmm. So I'm heating my food on plates and things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the real reason. But now with the amount of information I have, like if I was traveling and planning on using microwaves, I'd use glass containers now.
Yeah, I definitely put in the effort. And it was cool because Mutant came out with a stainless steel shaker. Right. So they have like a regular size stainless steel shaker.
Yeah.
So for people that are sensitive or worry about that, there's options, so a lot of companies are doing that now.
For sure. That's it. That's it. I like that people watch that and then they get to thinking, is like I said, especially after you sent that over, I was like, I've had multiple conversations with people who don't watch the show about it. I'm like, have you heard about the disappearing functioning penis? Wait, I mean plastics. If we want to have a human race, we should probably ease up on this shit.
It's pretty frightening though, eh?
Oh, it is. That's why it's funny, because I'm joking when I say that, but it's like that's actually a literal progression taking place. And I can't help but I think it's because I'm an old angry man now to see that correlation between our earlier conversations of what athletes and sports used to be, and now just everything's getting so soft. It's like some of it's on accident, and some of it's
right. You're like, so society's getting soft, and then you actually look, and the testosterone profile's dropping.
Yeah, you're like, oh, and okay, my bad.
Yeah, directly linked.
That might have an issue, something to do with it,
That's one of the big kicks, and I don't want to go off on this nonsense about all the stupid conversation about toxic masculinity. Everyone, that phrase to me is just so laughable. Anyone who says the phrase toxic masculinity, to me, they're completely oblivious about how man even survived long enough to get here. We're going to go to fucking Mars. Like, we're going to put a human on Mars soon. We've already fucking been there with robots.
Right.
The way that society progressed that far was to be aggressively progressive.
Right.
And the only reason why any women and children survived was because the men around them killed everything to protect them.
Right. Yeah.
100,000 years?
Yeah, they found ways to kill things that were stronger than them, faster than them.
Men are horrible and violent. Yes. And every woman and child, ideally, should have a violent man in their life to protect them. When you've got lions and tigers and other tribes and other cultures trying to constantly murder you and take everything, you need a very loving, violent man in your life. Well, that's just how I don't give a shit what you say about society now. Society now is a blip on the screen as to what humans went through for 150,000 fucking years.
Right.
And to survive that length of time, that's just how it was. You didn't have warriors in your tribe. Your tribe is forgotten for a reason.
Exactly. That's like the line. What's funny is Tommy had just sent me a clip of it, and I don't know if it was Rogan, but it was a podcast type thing, and it was very professional looking, where a guy is talking about that. He said, the thing now is that men should almost be docile and this and that. He's like, no. You should be a monster. You should be a monster that can tame that. Not be harmless. There's a difference, because if that thing gets called upon, it needs to be in you. And if it's not in you, you're fucked.
So Jordan, I think Jordan Peterson talked about that.
Okay.
He's a harmless man is not a good man.
Yeah.
A harmless man is useless.
Yeah.
A good man is a man who has the ability to be very violent if needed, but he chooses not to be.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
And I think people that have a hard time with that sort of speech, they're just detached from the reality of what it was to be a human all the way up till this very moment that they are currently living in.
Well, plus people don't realize, an example, like we're going to a festival in the summer to see some bands, and with Nikki's daughter, who's 12. It's her thing. It's her birthday thing. And she said to me, she goes, I'm a little scared, though, because of all that goes on at these. And her mother's response is, Dusty, there, you're fine. She goes, good. Like, in her brain immediately goes, oh, that's valid. Like, done. Yeah. What if you can't say that to a 12-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, we are fucked. We're going to a scary place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with the men are evil because they've controlled all the wealth. It's like, no. A tiny decimal point percentage of people controlled all the wealth for 100,000 years, and everyone else, including every man, lived in abject poverty.
Right.
Like, what do you think life was like in the 1700s? You think men had it easy?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus fucking Christ. These people are detached. The men were working 14-hour manual labor field jobs, and in fucking coal mines and taking all the bullets and bayonets.
Right.
You know, it hasn't been easy for anyone. Everyone lived in poverty. Everyone was poor. It was only the elites living in castles, and it wasn't just the men. Their families enjoyed that luxury from the top to bottom.
Yeah, of course.
You know, the current war on men is very, very, war on men. I'm just saying that term that gets thrown around, right? The toxic masculinity and the talk of the patriarchy and stuff. It's such a skewed snapshot of how they view today's current society. It doesn't reflect the reality of what it was like to live in 900 or 1200 or 1500 or 1800.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're talking about. The suffering and the violence it impacted every single person who wasn't wealthy and part of the royal family or the elite.
Right. Yeah. It's a comical thing that even I just think it's funny it gets pushed, because when I ask or discuss this with any woman I know, they're like, no, I want a man.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the reality of it.
You know what I mean? Like, period. The end. You know what I mean? Like, no. I don't want someone breaking in the front door and Emily looking at Ron and Ron looking back at Emily like, who's going to do something?
Hey, here's a question for you. Have you ever been in a fight or a violent situation because you were protecting a woman?
Yes, and it wasn't anyone I knew.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I can answer yes to that question as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your situation?
I came out of a Safeway and literally saw a guy tossing around his girlfriend and just took care of it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it wasn't like thoughts, because you could just see it was out of control.
Yeah.
Immediately, did what needed to happen. And then, the only thing that was funny, and that's what's interesting about the way the world works, is everyone wants that. You can bet your ass she was happy when the cops came and I had to deal with all that. I was on my way. No, because the world still says, oh, she was getting her ass beat by this Vato kid.
Right. Yeah. I was in it.
World is how often now we see the video of the guy beating his girlfriend by a guy holding the video.
Yeah. I was in a bar in Australia. It was actually the night before I flew home.
Oh God, you almost got arrested when you went home.
Almost got arrested. So this is a funny story. So we were in the bar, and by absolute coincidence, these two girls that I went to high school with happened to show up in that city in Australia because they were backpacking.
Awesome.
And they heard that I was there. So they contacted me. They're like, Ron, we heard you're here. I'm like, holy shit, I haven't seen you guys for years. So we went out and we went partying. Like, I had some guys with me and we went out and had fun. And we were at a club, and I was drinking for sure. And I was just walking through the club, and I was like in a good mood. I'm walking through the club, and she's in front of me. One of the girls that I went to high school with is in front of me. And this Australian dude, he just leans out in front and just grabs her tits. She had really big tits, and he just fucking grabs them and squeezes them. And she screamed. She's like grabbed his hands, and she like pulled on his hands.
Right.
And they were like locked on her tits.
Jesus.
And I was like a bit behind her, but I saw the whole thing, and I was just like, what the fuck? And she starts pulling at his hands. Right. And it took a few pulls for her to get his hands off.
Right.
And then I just came over and just fucking smashed him in the face.
Right.
And his head hit the mirror behind him and shattered the mirror.
Right.
And then right away his buddy bottled me in the head with a beer bottle.
Right.
I saw this bottle of beer coming towards my face, and I just put my head down, and it fucking exploded on my forehead.
Right.
I cut my head open right in my hairline.
Right.
So right away I just had beer and blood in my eyes. I couldn't see a thing.
Right.
But I had a handful of the dude's hair. The dude that bottled me, I grabbed his hair.
Right.
So we were wrestling, and I felt some doorman grab me, and all I remember was finding his head and then just headbutting him as many fucking times as I could, because there were door guys pulling me off, and I could hear the one door guy was going, Ron, it's us, we got you, it's a security, because I knew them.
Right.
And I just remember I had the guy that bottled me, and I couldn't see anything, and I was just headbutting. And of course, I was strong enough to just pull his body.
Yeah, of course, his body hit his head with him.
So I just headbutted him as many times as I could until the bouncers separated us. And the next thing I know, I was literally being carried by all the door. It was like all these security guys, but they were all like patting me on the chest. They're like, "We got you, Ron. We got you. Don't worry, we got you." Right. And I'm like, okay. And I couldn't see anything. And then next thing I hear a door, and I'm in an alley.
Right.
And there's two door guys with me, and they've like wiping blood out of my eyes, and they're helping me out. And I just had a little cut on my fucking head, but holy shit, the blood. I had a Reservoir Dogs t-shirt on.
From the shirt.
A white Reservoir Dogs t-shirt, and it was just fucking covered in blood.
Right.
And I was worried that my head was just gashed open. Like
I thought so much blood, yeah.
No, it was just kind of cut. So anyways, they cleaned me up. The guys went out front, and then when I walked around the side of the building, there was like that dude, and his nose was bloody, and then his buddy who had blood on his face, and this big group of them, and they were just screaming for me, "We're gonna fucking kill you!" And they're just screaming, and there was like a bunch of them, and I'm like, well, fuck that. Right. Like I got these two normal girls with me,
right?
Like a couple dudes like from the backpackers. I'm like, oh, I'm not fucking. So we just walked down the alley. The one dude had a t-shirt and like a button-up plaid shirt.
Right.
So he gave me his t-shirt because I didn't, and then we just went for breakfast.
That's the greatest finish ever.
And I had this super tight, like large t-shirt on, eating my pancakes. And then the next day,
the shirt.
This is the best part. The best part. The next day, and I'm not like this. This is not the type of thing that happens to me normally. It was just a crazy situation. The next day, I'm on the plane. I'm flying home, right? And I'm sitting next to this dude, and he hadn't said a word. Like he was totally quiet. He's kind of this older guy. And I remember I was kind of picking at my scab.
Right.
Because it felt like there was like a big bump. I'm like, is that a scab? And then this fucking brown piece of glass came out of my head.
Oh,
and I like pulled it down, and I was looking at it in my fingers, and I was like turning it, and it was like a brown piece of beer bottle.
Right.
VB for anyone who's asking, is a VB bottle, a little stubby. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, holy fuck, that was in my head. And my fingers are all like kind of, I'm not bleeding, but my fingertips have blood on them, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. And then I look over, and he's just leaning against the window.
Like watching.
Staring at my fingers.
Because he realized you just pulled a piece of glass out of your forehead.
And I go, I think that's beer bottle.
That's like a movie line, just calmly. I think
that was just the craziest. That's just the crazy. So that's the only time I could think of where I got violent to protect a woman. In my mind, I was doing the right thing.
I'm just grateful for the end of the story. Because I could just see
the end is the reason I told the whole story. Because I don't like telling gratuitous fighting stories. They don't make you sound cool.
No, but I just think that guy, I mean, if that was me, well, maybe not me, but someone else, I would go home and be like, so I'm on the flight, right?
Hey, shit.
And he actually never even explained to me why there would be a beer bottle in his head.
Yeah.
Just let me know that's probably what it was.
I remember just as soon as that guy bottled me, I remember thinking like, I'm fucked. I can't see a thing. And I realized after I punched the dude, I quickly realized that like the entire group around him was with him.
Yeah, they were all his friends.
And I was like, oh, I just fucking smashed it.
You're now blind and you're fighting 10 people.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm going to look like I tried to save a chick, you know. I'm like, this is going to be bad. So that's why I was just frantically headbutting that dude, because you know how that mentality, like, well, I'm going to take somebody down with me.
Yeah, I'm in now.
If they're going to beat the shit out of me, this guy is going to have no teeth left.
Remember, that's the Rob Bailey story.
Yeah.
with Dana's ex.
Yeah.
You guys might whip my ass, but not before I remove all of your teeth.
Yeah. You guys might whip my ass, but but one of you guys, someone's gonna lose their face, man. Yeah,
I
that's how.
remember when he told me that the first time. I was like, I can see that, and I can also see them going,
Yeah,
I think we're good.
I go down, but one of you guys gonna lose a fucking eye.
I can see because those who don't know Rob, it's like I can see that because you're like, he means that. So
Yeah, he understands.
big ass man. So okay.
So yeah, so toxic masculinity is a terrible thing. Is that what our conclusion is?
Yes, I think I think I agree, and I'm gonna up my estrogen.
Okay. Okay.
Oh boy.
I never told that story before. I don't think I've told anybody that story.
A story that I have never heard, which means you probably have never told anyone.
I got a bunch of like stupid shit like that. I'm not a lot of fight stories though. I'm not like the type of guy that like that's really rare.
Right. Well, that was brought up. You had no choice. Hey, what is the Chris Gatlin 30-day challenge? Do you know?
Well, I know who Chris Gethin is.
So do I.
So I assume he's doing like a 30-day challenge of some kind, you know, that Instagram thing, right?
I just wondering if it was something big because someone asked my thoughts about it. So I was like, is there something weird about this?
Yeah, I'm not sure the details of it.
Okay.
You know,
we're not answering that because the answer is I don't know.
Yeah, the answer is I don't know. I've always gotten along well with Chris. I met him when he worked for bodybuilding.com back in the day.
Right. He's a monster now in the game.
Yeah, no. Plus, I get along with all the dudes that have the accents, you know.
Of course, you guys all stick together. I had a guy ask me how long I can last sprinting nonstop, and my own thought is until the hamstring tears.
So you know, between
7 steps,
somewhere between 10 and 50 yards.
Literally, that's what I said. I'm like, when I was reading these off this morning, I'm like, well, I wonder how long it'll take before my hamstring tears. I don't know. Right around full speed should be the end.
I don't know if you like these ones or not, but here's one. Who would you rather be, and who would you rather feed, Godzilla or King Kong?
Well, geez. I would rather be Godzilla because, Jesus, hello.
Godzilla has like laser beams and shit, doesn't he?
Yeah, plus he's just like, because my interpretation.
Godzilla is more supernatural than King Kong.
Yeah,
King Kong's just big.
A monkey, a giant,
giant gorilla. So the strength is multiplied by magnitudes and all that stuff.
There's no like extra tricky shit. He's not blowing fire out of his eyeballs or anything, or laser.
Yeah, but Godzilla has like powers of electricity harnessing and beams and shit.
Yeah, if all of my thoughts on that are correct, then yes, that's my answer for that. And feed, man, that's a lose-lose. But I'm gonna assume, since again it's some supernatural thing, that maybe Godzilla doesn't need as much.
Yeah,
because King Kong is literally a giant monkey.
How many bananas do you feed King Kong?
I don't think he's even eating bananas. He's gonna have to go up. He's got to up the dose.
He's eating banana trees.
Exactly.
Lots of fiber in a banana tree. I
actually like those ones when they're creative, because I've never even heard of that as a possible question. You get good, like people come up with some thoughtfuls.
Yeah,
I get. What's your favorite cutting cycle? Like, I don't care.
Oh, I thought you didn't want me to ask that one. It was right here.
Exactly, you got that too. I am always blown away though. So I'm gonna partially answer. Like, there's nothing. I actually just had a client say that to me. He goes, "Hey, I'm dieting. Why am I not taking Anabar to help shred me?"
I'm like, just diet.
I was like, no. My response, no. I don't have time to go into the fact that that's
here. People want to talk bodybuilding. This is a bodybuilding question. It might actually apply to some people because they're wondering, is a jumbo box of Minute Maid rice good for carbs, or do I have to use other kinds of rice in order for them to be better?
Same shit.
It's the same shit. All Minute rice is they've already cooked it and then just redehydrated it.
Yep.
It's already been cooked. It's just redehydrated, and you're just hydrating it. But it's exactly the same molecule. Like
it's rice.
The polysaccharide is the same polysaccharide. It's still just rice.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with that. I know guys that only eat Minute rice, like for their whole life. They're like, I just eat Minute rice. That's all they eat. Boxes and boxes of minute rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes right up there with when people will ask, like, why, what potato, or, and I say gold potatoes. Oh, why gold? I'm like, they taste the best.
Right.
In my opinion.
I used to use a certain type of potato and people would ask why. And I go, oh, well, because it comes from my neighbor's farm.
There you go. Yeah. That's
Local.
the same logic though. Literally. It's like, oh, okay, perfect.
Oh, well, Ron says he uses these red potatoes. And I'm like, well, yeah, because if you look at the bag, it says made in Canada. And my dad actually knows that guy, and I know they come from his farm. So
supporting a friend's business, basically.
Yeah. Here's one. 5 best exercises for triceps. If you had to just simplify tricep training, I want triceps like Kevin Levrone.
Close grip bench. You name one.
Well, you need a stretch exercise in there. So when people talk about exercises, I don't think that way. I think about positions.
Right. True.
So you need a stretch load position. So something with the arm behind the head, where you put a stretch load on the tricep. So that could be dumbbell behind the head, 2-handed dumbbell behind the head, any sort of pulley from low up behind the head. Yeah. So all that stuff applies, and you just have to find one that you can load that works well for your body.
Yeah, I love hammer strength dip machine. I love that for triceps. As long as I have someone that can push it down enough for me to get my knees under the pad.
So here's the thing. So the hammer strength dip machine is a good example of one of many. It's a great machine that isn't made well.
Exactly.
It's like
exactly what you mean.
It's like guys like you and me figure out a way to use it for our bodies, but it's actually not like if you just sit in a hammer strength dip and lock into it exactly the way it's made, I don't like it at all.
No. Yeah. I need it. My training partner has to put all of his weight, because I'm also using way more weight than I weigh, all the way down so I can get under it. And usually another person will push it down on my knee. So I'm locked in.
Right.
Start.
See, I don't even use the knee pads. I hook my foot under the wall behind me.
Oh, God.
And then I put my knee under the seat. I drop the seat down on my knees.
Squeezing it with your knees.
And then I tighten my abs. And then I get onto it and I fucking crank out as many reps as I can. And my glutes firing and my abs are tight. Yeah, it's funny.
Body workout.
Yeah. So it's funny because there's a few machines like that. I'll tell people, oh, I love that machine. And then I'm like, actually, wait. I hate that machine, but I figured out a way to use it where I love it.
I can run with that. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a few of those. So you got a compound. So basically I say you need a dip movement.
Right.
You need a close grip press movement. You need an overhead stretch movement.
Right.
And then you need skull crushers are like a fantastic overall mid-range loading exercise. Would you agree? Just for 2-plate skull crusher.
I love those. And then you know what else that people don't, I never post, but I also think that any good tricep routine needs something where there's a ton of blood at the end. So I'll do some form of a superset where it's like 20 and 20 reps, just blood.
And then also technically I think you need a shortened position. So that's where the hand is past the hip.
Right.
So like a single arm press down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I think. So you got stretch midway, and then shortened position past the hip. And then you have the 2 compound positions, kind of a pressing outward and a pressing downward.
Yeah, that's why I like I like taking 2 ropes and doing
There you go.
So that the elbows are pinned backwards instead of going out. We're bringing them behind me, breaking the wrist. Yeah, those
there
are
you go. See?
We're on the same page.
Boom. Okay, your turn.
Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know anything about that. Oh, this is the same simple one, but we'll answer it real quick. Do things like oatmeal versus cream of rice matter that much, or is it overthinking?
Well, for most people, it's overthinking.
Yeah, unless you're
the odd person, it might be important. Yeah. Some people say they just don't tolerate oatmeal that well. And also, too, another thing that I think is important to remember is people say stuff like, oh, I can't eat oatmeal. Or, oh, I can't eat that food. And I'm like, no, that's not true. You totally can. You just don't do well with the large amounts required for bodybuilding.
Right. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I'm sensitive to oatmeal. I'm like, no, you can eat oatmeal just fine. But you're like getting ready for, you're doing off season and you're eating a fucking 300 grams of oatmeal a day. That's when you run into problems. You know what I mean? So
I think that's why a lot of us have just switched over. Like, my dieting is so basic now. I typically tell people right up front, oatmeal I have memorized as far as what it is. So it'll be like a cup of dry oats, just 54, and I'll write right next to it, aka 54 grams of carbs, and it can be any breakfast cereal you want.
right.
You want malto meal? Have it. 54 grams.
Yeah, I don't care.
Of carbs, I should say.
Yeah.
Not of weight.
Yeah. And that's why cream of rice is popular with some people, because white rice in general is extremely easy on most people's guts, and you can eat large amounts of it.
Yep.
You know, you got to remember that white rice is one of the only foods on the extremely strict list that they give to like Crohn's patients and colitis patients and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're worried about any sort of irritation, white rice has already passed the test.
Right. Which is why I think some of us default to it. White rice is like the only carb I eat pretty much, because other than breakfast, because I'm also lazy and I can make a huge amount of it in a machine.
Oh. We got time for a few more, Dusty?
Yeah, as long as you got some solid ones. Do it now.
This guy's trying to decide whether he should go to his first concert post-COVID on weed or mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Depends on the concert, actually, but weed doesn't count for me. I'm not going to get into the other ones, but yes, if I had to choose, it'd be mushrooms for those.
Weed doesn't count. I do my taxes high.
I really don't. The world has changed. Weed doesn't really do. I wouldn't. Let's dead serious though. You're not experiencing a concert any different on weed.
No.
By the time I got there, it'd be gone.
You might be happier and less upset about your day.
Yeah.
But it's not like you'd have to. Okay, there's some caveats here. Let's say you eat 100 milligrams of THC.
Okay, different. Yeah.
Now the concert might be different.
Yeah, if we're going gummies, that's a different world now. Yeah, no, I agree. I immediately, when I hear the term weed, I assume they're smoking.
Right.
Which negates all THC. So.
Do you believe in, the deload question?
Yes.
Basically, I got a few deload questions again about how to deload and all that stuff. I am not an expert on deloading because I was always terrible at it.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the people that can deload sanely, and I appreciate that I have clients that are very good at it.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I want you to do a week where you don't train to failure on anything and just do 10 perfect reps on everything and give your body a rest.
Right.
And they're like, okay, I did that. It went really well. It's kind of boring. And I'm like, oh, wow, you did that? Really? That's amazing. I couldn't do that.
I just don't go to the gym. Everyone knows that. I just don't go. I don't enjoy it. And I know the purpose. I'm not gone long enough for it to matter. Like we discussed about how long you have to be gone for it to actually change your body. So I just don't go. I have no joy in what I can do with that time valuable, including watch a fucking movie.
Yeah, take a week off.
I just don't go to the gym at all. I tell all my clients the same thing. I go, look, if I need them to take like 2 weeks, I'm like, here's my 2 cents. Take a week off and then take a week of California pro training. And either order, I don't really give a shit. I would probably do my week off first, then do my little pumps to get ready to get back in the gym, get the joints moving. That's it. You know, because training is too much my love and what I want to do. The idea of going in there and doing 10 reps and stopping. The problem is this, and I know you've had this before because I've done it. I've went in the gym before, told Tommy, hey man, we got to take it easy today. Chris or whoever said I need to kind of whatever. And I start doing my rows. And I'm like, I feel good today. The next thing you know, I'm like, put another plate. Record today.
Every time.
Yeah. So I'm just not mature enough. So I just don't go. Call the gym owner. Do not let me in today. Under no circumstances. Turn my card off so the door doesn't open.
Yep.
Yep.
True.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
You got another one?
I don't have any phenomenal ones, to be honest with you. If you have one more, let's blast it out. I've been scanning the whole time you're talking.
Been scanning the whole time you're talking.
Yeah. Like, listen to you, Jesus.
So there's a bunch here on splits. I know we talk about splits a lot. How long have you done the Dorian split, the 4-day per week split? Well, I'd say at least 20.
Would you say how many decades are we talking? That's easier, 2?
Yeah, I'd say at least 20 years of the 30 years I've been training. I did like the actual just 4-day Dorian out of the video.
Right.
And now I'm doing it again now. That's my current split. So it's always just been home for me. It's just comfortable. My body recovers. My joints feel good between workouts. I don't run into issues, you know?
Yep.
I had an arm day, a 5th day, which was an arm day. That was how it changed for a long time. I had that, and I'm not going to say it actually, who knows? Like, I know I ran into problems with elbows and stuff and had to like work around it. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, but you never know. It's just a great split for me with the 2 days on, 1 day off now. I feel like I can just train infinitely.
I think if I was going to say anything about splits, the only thing I would really press to people is resist the temptation to go to the gym more than maximum 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you're not training at a high enough intensity. If you can train 5 days straight, you're either the workouts are suffering or you're just training like a bitch.
I'll put it this way. I've never known a champion bodybuilder who lifted weights every day.
No.
But I've known a lot of wannabe champion bodybuilders who trained every day.
Yeah. And I always say too, if you're training hard enough, as much as we talk about loving the gym, I need to not go to the gym. By the time tomorrow I'm off, I can't go. I don't want, like, the thought of going to the gym, I'm like, well, I'm going to be sore from my head to my toe, and I'm going to train legs tomorrow.
I felt like I got hit by a car after my last leg workout. My whole day off the next day, I was just like in a fog.
Yeah. So, and that's how it should be. If you're training 4 or 5 days straight and you still desiring going to the gym, in my opinion, you're working out, you're not training. There's a difference.
Yeah. You're working out, you're not training. You're exercising. You can exercise every day.
Yeah, but you can't train every day.
Right, but you can't train every day. That's the difference. That's a quote for the week, Dusty.
Just like that. We made a T-shirt, we're out the door.
Exercise is something you can do every day. Training is not.
Facts.
There you go.
Facts.
Any words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
What Ron just said is key. We have 10,000 subscribers, so I feel like we've already said our words.
I'm not going to get in any trouble by telling that little fight story, am I? I was only like 20. Was I 20 years old?
Can't get in trouble in reverse in Australia.
No. I just, I don't want the culture wars to come after me.
I'm not excited unless someone's mad at me. Like, I like the conversation with Turner Riddle, which, by the way, I'm going to have him on soon. When somebody finally leaves, I always wonder when they unfollow me, I'm like, what did it? I'm just curious. I don't want to change it, but I just want to know, like, I've been an asshole this whole time. What finally nudged you over the edge that you were like, this guy's a douche?
You know what's funny? I have to say this before I go, because it's just so fucking creepy. People don't do it because it makes you look like a psycho. Like a fucking psycho. Are you ready, Dusty?
What?
Okay, so do you ever feel like Instagram follows people for you that you didn't follow?
No.
The odd time I'll be looking through my feed and I'm like, I do not remember following this person.
Okay.
Like, it might have been a fat thumb thing.
Yeah, I have done that on accident where I'm looking at something and I accidentally click a follow, but then I leave it because I'm like, now I feel weird.
Yeah. So there was this one chick and like, I don't remember following her. I don't remember if I was okay. And I just left her. She came through my feed and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't remember following her. And then she was coming through my feed like pretty often.
Right. Because,
the more they come through your feed, the more you see them and then the more they come through your feed. And then probably didn't it help because every time she came through my feed, I would stop on her photo.
Ah,
And I would be like, how I don't remember following this person, but whatever. And I looked and she seemed like a cool chick. I don't remember following her. And she was like from nowhere near here, like another country somewhere. And I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But I unfollowed her.
Right.
Because I was like, I don't know her at all.
She did not catch that and text you or message you.
And she didn't seem like she was like a huge fan of the show or anything. It wasn't like that. It was like just some other person. So I unfollow her. And like the same day I get a message, why did you unfollow me? And I'm like, okay, that's why.
I rest my case. I made a good decision.
Yeah, it just makes you look crazy. Like, I'm sorry. I don't fucking know. I don't remember. Like, who knows? Let's look at my Instagram. I'm following 3,600 people.
Do you know what's funny about the
I probably remember following 1,000 of them.
Well, what's funny about that is the reverse is because I look at the stats because of marketing. I lose hundreds of followers a week. It would be impossible for me to know. Particularly someone I don't know. I probably wouldn't know it if you unfollowed me because I don't look at who likes my pictures.
Right.
So I don't actually know if you liked my photo. Like, you know what I mean? I never think to myself, who liked my picture? I don't give a shit.
So that I guess that begs the question or begs the topic before we
didn't realize that you unfollowed her.
Well, because they have those apps that tell you.
Why would you care enough to upload it?
Right. That's the problem. If you have the app that tells you, reports to you how many people this guy unfollowed you today and this person unfollowed you today, I think that's a problem. You have to let that go. You can't be worried about that.
That unfollow me like a week. Hundreds, literally 300, 400 people unfollow me every single week.
Well, I mean, I've been stuck at the same number of followers for like a year straight, and I get dozens of new followers every day.
Yeah, so that means dozens of people are unfollowing you every day.
Yeah.
Like,
and now that I'm posting BMX stuff, I probably pissed a whole bunch of people off, and that's fine. I don't care, but I can't imagine staring at that app and who unfollowed me? Oh my God! Like that just can't live like that, man. That's fucking terrible, And I don't want to know. Like, let's say it is someone you know, like Jason from the gym unfollowed me today. Wow, I wonder what I did to piss him off. And now all day I'm like, and then I see him and I'm like, I wonder why he doesn't like me anymore. You just can't live your life like that.
I imagine this is what I think.
Maybe he's tired of bodybuilding and he's unfollowing pro bodybuilders and he still loves to see you in person.
Yeah.
He likes you. Maybe this guy from the gym, awesome to see me. Hey, Ron, good to see you, man. But he just doesn't want bodybuilders in his feed anymore. He's had enough.
Yeah. Maybe they've seen me row enough times that they don't want to see that shit anymore.
Yeah, Dusty's posting the same video again of a 500-pound row again. Okay, I'm just
tired of seeing this shit. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that's my take.
I love it. I didn't even realize they had those apps, so I had no idea.
Crazy world. Like you got people like Gary V and successful people giving good advice, like stop giving a fuck what people think of you. Right. And then you have people that are sitting on these apps all day. Oh my God, Dusty unfollowed me. It's like, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. That's a bad spot to put yourself in. I don't see any benefit in living like that.
Exactly. That's bold. That's a great story. You actually reached out to you and you're like, you don't actually know me.
Yeah, I'm a little sorry but it wasn't like, it just was like, picture of her with a drink. I'm like, I don't know. Unfollow. I don't know.
I don't like mojitos. I'm done with you.
I also unfollowed like a whole bunch of hot chicks recently.
Yeah, because they're just polluting your feed. Yeah,
polluting my feed. And when I say hot chicks, I mean like the ones that like that's their thing. Like they have 200,000 followers.
Yeah,
they don't do anything else. They contribute no other content whatsoever. I'm just like, I don't need this. Unfollow. Just clean this shit up.
Yeah.
So okay, try to be more cerebral.
Love it.
Okay, Dusty. Until next time, I think we hit the 2-hour mark, man. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell. That's where the sound effect comes in.
I would ding.
Oh, a ding. Okay, thanks. Remember, everybody, it's just bodybuilding.